Presented by Raytheon, making the world a safer place.
This week on Campaign 2018 Election Hacking, we take a look at how hackers use the dark web to influence elections. The dark web is a network of encrypted websites that are commonly used for criminal purposes. They require special software to access and allow users to remain anonymous.
This week, CNET senior producer Dan Patterson spoke with Allison Donesco-Rayom. She's a staff writer and deputy editor with our partners at Tech Republic. She explained how hackers use the dark web to meddle with elections.
When it comes to voter data, hackers can often gain this information legally through state voter registration listings. But it's illegal, obviously, to sell that information as well as to use it to perform a social engineering attack or to dox a person listed on the records.
All right, so Dan Patterson joins us now with more insight. First question, Dan, is how does our information, my information, end up on the dark web to begin with?
Yeah, so every time we report on one of these big data breaches, right? So Equifax or OPM, that's the Office of Personnel Management in the federal government, you may think, well, I didn't hear or see anything about it, so no big deal. Wrong. Your information is bought and sold in these coalesced databases on the dark web. Like we said earlier, these are encrypted websites that law enforcement agencies are actually sniffing around at, but it's pretty easy on sites that resemble Amazon or other e-commerce marketplaces to trade cryptocurrency for data.
You're kidding me. They look like Amazon?
Some of these sites are incredibly slick and very easy to use.
Wow.
So I can only imagine, but what do hackers want to do with this information?
So hackers want to do a lot of different things with this information. If you'll recall, a few weeks ago, we talked about influence campaigns. Influence campaigns are targeted and coordinated efforts to use social media to spread misinformation. So these aren't just broad attacks using all of social media. This is targeted towards your personal preferences, how you may be swayed to vote in a particular election. We talked with Allison a little bit about this, so let's take a listen.
It's often extremely cheap to buy voter data or cyber weapons on the dark web. In 2017, we saw a hacker offer up more than 40 million voter records from at least 9 states on the dark web. They sold 2 copies of the databases from Arkansas and Ohio for only $2 each. So that's nearly 10 million voter records sold for a total of $4.
Okay, so then they have all this information, but how could they use this to meddle in elections?
Well, again, with influence campaigns, they also use what's called social engineering attacks. We talked with Kevin Mitnick about this a couple weeks ago. So this would be, it's just easier to hack a human than it is to hack a network or a system. So this is when hackers kind of trick you into, they may call you on the phone, or they may send a phishing email and kind of trick you into revealing information. Now, if you think about all the people who work for state and federal systems, it's again far easier for me to figure out your username and password and access a voter database a lot easier than it is to hack the system. We also see these, what we call loosely cyber weapons. Now, we don't want to be hyperbolic about this, but these are digital tools that are designed to wreak havoc in the physical world. So if you'll recall, last year we saw this outbreak of ransomware. Much of that ransomware came from an NSA device or hacking toolkit called Eternal Blue. The derivatives were WannaCry and other forms of ransomware that are then targeted back at different states, cities, and even individual districts. So we'll talk more about this in the coming weeks, but if you, for example, take down, say, a transportation or communication system, you can prevent certain voters from getting to the polls. So we're not talking about keeping all 300 some odd million Americans from getting to the polls, but if you think about how tight some of these races are, if you can prevent just a few hundred or a few thousand people from getting to their polling place or keep emergency systems from operating properly, you sow chaos and you prevent very specific voters from being able to vote.
Really fascinating and a little bit scary.
Dan Patterson, thank you. For more on Dan's reporting on this, you can check out cbsnews.com/election hacking. Our election hacking series continues next Wednesday, and we'll speak to Dan about the vulnerabilities of software and databases, including the hardware they run on. That's next Wednesday right here on CBSN. We'll be right back.